Welcome to my review of the FPVLR long-range extenders for the Phantom 3 Standard. So like most people, I started with the Phantom 3 Standard without any upgrades, and was only getting about a half mile of range, which is really unsatisfying when you live in Hawaii, and a half mile over the ocean just really isn't very great for shots. So after a little bit of research, I settled on FPVLR for their upgrade. I purchased the long-range kit for the Phantom 3 Standard, as well as the amp and all of the little accessories I needed for the amp. I also purchased their $100 installation service because even though I see the video on YouTube and it seems fairly simple to follow with the directions, I really didn't want to mess up and have my drone plummet into the ocean. So first we have a few images of what the controller will look like after the purchase. It does add a slightly noticeable amount of front end weight to the controller, and it adds a lot of length to the controller. So with this upgrade you will not be able to fit it in most hardshell cases without disassembly. Disassembly doesn't take too long, but it is a slight hassle. You'll notice some blue tape on the controller. That was actually with instructions from them for the assembly, and they numbered each connection point to make it very easy to assemble once it arrived. So after purchasing, the return time is remarkably quick with their upgrade. The problem I had though is the first upgrade that I didn't actually perform according to standards. I was only getting about a mile of range before losing connection. The problem was when I relayed that information to the company, they basically ignored me, and it took me 8.5 weeks of several phone calls and many emails, and the threat of a refund before they were finally able to assist me in fixing the controller. I sent it back to them, and they replaced the amp and the front end of the upgrade, and after that it did work, but nothing should take 8.5 weeks. Anyway, enough babbling from me. For the first flight test, I went to the ocean, so I had no obstructions of the controller's view. I did forget to hit record when I was flying, so I don't have any video footage of this, so this screenshot of my flight record data will have to do. I made it out to about 9,500 feet away from the controller, which is about 2,900 meters. For my second test flight, in the same area, I went about 10,500 feet or 3,200 meters, and the video you're seeing is just what it looks like from that distance to the beach to where I'm at. As you can see, it's a beautiful shot. My third test flight wasn't on purpose. I was up at Laie Point and noticed some ships in the distance and thought I could get a better view with my drone. Before I realized it, I had gone about 11,600 feet or 3,500 meters from my controller. I did have to head back because my battery was going to run low with the return winds, and I only made it back with about 20% battery life. So with this controller, that is definitely something you have to watch out for. So as a general note with all of these test flights, I never actually lost connection to my drone. Each of these times I was a little scared of it losing connection and having to fly its way home under its own battery life, so I returned to home early, but I again did not lose connection and could have flown further. You do get a low signal warning at about 5,000 feet, and that pretty much stays constant for the rest of your flight, but doesn't interfere with flying. Another note is you do have to keep the controller pointing at your drone at all times. If you point a little bit to the left or to the right, you'll lose connection, and hopefully your return to home settings will keep your drone alive, but it's definitely something you have to keep notice of. So as a wrap up to my review, I give the final product 4 stars. It is a huge improvement to go from half a mile to over 2 miles, and I still didn't lose connection at over 2 miles. It makes for getting some long range shots very, very easy. However, the controller is a little bulky and doesn't really store easily, so that is a negative. Unfortunately, I give their service only 2 stars. It should not take over 8 weeks and a lot of effort on the part of the customer to just reach you for repair services. That was really disappointing, and the fact that they went from answering my emails every 15 minutes when I was a prospective customer to not answering for multiple days when I was trying to get a fix is very disheartening. As a final safety note, I did stay under 400 feet for the duration of my flight, and I made sure to keep visual line of sight of my drone at all times. With this controller, you do need to be pointing directly at your drone, so that's actually a plus in my book to make sure you have visual line of sight of your drone. But at that distance, it is hard to hear aircraft coming in, so I do highly recommend only flying over completely unpopulated areas like a giant ocean with no air traffic around you. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I hope it helps you make your decision if you're going to upgrade or not. And let me know if you have any comments or any suggestions.